That is just so grooving. Our very own Seaside band. Yeah. Like swaying in my seat. I was like, yeah. Good morning, Seaside. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning, good morning. It's just a beautiful day today, and we're just so grateful to everybody that's joining us right now. And you're in for a treat for just a wonderful message, wonderful music today. And we're going to start out, try to get us all anchored in. A Ricky Byers song. All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. All love, holy, holy. All love, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is love, holy, holy. All one, holy, holy. All one, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is one, holy, holy. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Rebecca. My goodness.
Thank you. I like that song. A little Ricky Byers this
You
morning.
can just feel it. Hey, good morning, Seaside. Wow, what a joy it is to be able to join everybody who is out there from here. This is fabulous. Oh, wow. Hey, how was concert number 10?
It was great. First time, finally switched over. It just took a year almost.
Oh, yeah.
But finally switched over to YouTube. So it was the first time we streamed from YouTube instead of from Facebook this time. So we tried it out. It seemed to go pretty well.
Yeah, nothing like rushing into having your own channel.
That's right.
Right, yeah.
Well, I've had it for a while. I've just never really pushed it as much as I should have.
Yeah.
But now we're figuring it
That's
out.
good. Hey, speaking of pushing things, you up? Let's see, Valentine's Day is actually on Sunday.
No.
You want to do vows on the well, I mean, not you and I.
Right.
Callie and you and Rico.
Me and Rico, that's
yeah. But let's, like we always do it, what, 10:20?
That'd be wonderful.
Between services?
That'd be on what day is that again now?
When's Valentine's Day?
Probably the 14th, so
Yeah.
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today at 10:20. And we're not going to do the Zoom thing. We'll just just broadcast it straight so people can be in their homes and do their intimate thing.
That'd be wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, guys, got that. February 14th, bring your beloved vows of love exchange. So we're going to do that from here. It'll be beautiful. We always do. So.
Yes.
All right.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, and so what we want to do is take this even deeper than your music took us, and that was deep. But we have a wonderful practitioner, a student in the School of Ministry, really one who orchestrates our online practitioner participation here at Seaside, which is turned into a model of the movement with what we're doing. So, Dana, take us to that deeper place.
And good morning, Seaside Virtual Community. It is a magnificent morning, and I'm knowing the same for you right where you are. I'm going to begin by lighting the candle and let that represent the light that lives within you, that divine space. Please join me in the silence. Everywhere I witness the divine beauty of all life, all love, joy, wisdom, creative intelligence. Everywhere is spirit. There is no space where spirit is not, and I know that I emanate from that. I know that spirit breathes my breath, beats my heart. I live within that wonder that is all good. And what I know for myself, I absolutely know for all. So I speak my word that right here and right now, the magnificence of this day calls to each individual. I know Dr. Christian's message reminds every person that they are that light and that love of spirit, that there is work to do, and we step forward awakened. I know the right and perfect people are gathered here together as that light, as that love, to move forward. I know only good can come from this awakening, this awareness to the call. And I know that beautiful message for Dr. Christian to deliver to this universe begins right here and right now.
All is well, and I am grateful. All is well, and now it's time to let it go. All is well, and I am grateful. Life is good, and so it is. All is well, and I am grateful. All is well, and now it's time to let it go. All is well, and I am grateful. God is good, and so it is. Life is good, and so it is.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Rebecca Berry, and I'm so excited I had someplace to go to dress up today. So I'm also the leader of our prayer ministry, our practitioners. We have 45 practitioners that it takes 4 years to become a practitioner, and to be licensed, they actually have to prove that this stuff that we teach really works. And so after the service at 12 noon, you can jump into our prayer room, be paired up with a practitioner, or if you would like something to go deeper, you can always book a session. We are here for you. So many times I know people that have been coming here for years and have never experienced what a practitioner can do for you. So try it out. We also have so many wonderful things going on here at Seaside. I know all of us are feeling a little disconnected, but you can always, there's ways to stay connected. Every day, Dr. Christian sends out a wonderful message, and so many times I'll take them and I'll even post them on Facebook, and everybody loves it and feels uplifted. And I think he gets up at midnight or 1 is when they come to my mailbox. And then also we have our weekly newsletter that tells you everything that's going on so you don't miss anything. We have our website. We have classes, we have enrichment programs, we have Dr. Christina has Experiencing Wholeness, I think, something like that. It's on Thursday night. And so, you can always join in with like-minded consciousness and discover and grow and connect. And we have our sacred circles, which they are what they are. If you haven't experienced it, it's a smaller group of people. And you get, through Zoom, you get to connect, discuss ideas, discuss these wonderful ideas with like-minded people, make new friends and reconnect with old ones. And then next Saturday, I'm teaching another breathwork class. And breathwork, the class that I teach is it's like taking a tranquilizer without any drugs. And so it helps you release stress, anxiety. It really boosts your immune system. Since I've been doing it, I haven't been sick in 6 years now. And yeah. And then also get blissed out and reach a higher state of consciousness. So my reading for today is from Pray and Prosper by Ernest Holmes, one of my favorite books. What is prayer? We pray either to an infinite mind or an omnipotent power. Prayer is always some form of communion with the universe. It reaches its highest possibility when it rises above the limitations of any existing circumstance. This is why Jesus told his followers not to judge by appearances. Jesus did not deny the appearance. He merely said, do not accept it as the only possibility. How could anyone arrive at such faith unless he knew that he was dealing with a power which can rearrange facts and create new ones? A belief in the invisible is the very essence of faith. Prayer, or spiritual communion, demands a complete surrender to the invisible. It knows that because the creative power of God is at hand, all things are possible. Man is powerful because he deals with this power. He may become wise because he is immersed in wisdom. Thus, he has an inexhaustible source from which to draw. Whatever our idea of God may be, the perception of reality is always an inner perception. Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is within. The power of prayer is not so much a petition as it is an inner recognition. Ours is a privilege of acceptance. Thus, we are to assume the attitude of a grateful beneficiary of the divine gifts. This should be done simply and directly. Spirit is not something that was or that is going to be or become. The truth that it is exists at the very center of our being.
That is so good. Thank you. Wow. Well, it is my honor on Sunday mornings to introduce our guest artist, and we just love this human being. She is a deep part of Seaside family. She's incredibly talented. She's a fantastic singer, songwriter, and multi-talented, always learning, and I love, she's gone back to school and she's studying to be a playwright. I think that's incredible. I love it. It's still in such a creative world, but in a different way, and I love it. She's always evolving. And she's here with us today, drove all the way down from Los Angeles to be here with us. Please, let's give a warm Seaside welcome, wherever you are watching from, for Margaret Owens.
Thank you. Lovely. All right, Max, let's do it. The thing itself is beautiful. The thing itself is magnificent. The goes by many names. Some people call it God, Buddha, Allah, Muhammad. Call it Father or a four-speed blender. You can call it Mother if that don't send you on a bender. You can call it power or something gentle. I got a method to recall the fundamentals. It's A, absolute, E, energy, I, infinite, O, oneness, and you is universal. And then there is why, because there's you. Let's not forget about you. The thing itself will move you, if you will call it through you, to guide your hopes and deeds, and care for every need, to bless the path as you explore it. And if you happen to be searching for it, it's A, absolute, E, energy, I, infinite, O, oneness, and you is universal. And then there is why, because there's you. Let's not forget about you. The sun still shines when it's cloudy, and you're still divine when you're pouty. You rage and you dream, you hope and you scream, you curse and you care, and it's always there, because it's A, absolute, E, energy, I, infinite, O, oneness, and you is universal. And then there is why, because there's you. Not forget about you.
That is Margaret Owens. Oh my, that's such a perfect song for this morning. Good pick. We just, for a couple decades we've been doing Sunday gigs together, Oh, yeah. Well, I had a lot more hair back then, So anyway, it was just perfect song for this morning, because here at Seaside, what we've been doing is going through the basics of the science of mind, as brought forth by Ernest Holmes in his book called The Science of Mind, which has become our textbook. And so there's an overview to this big, thick 500-page book in just 4 short chapters at the beginning. And that's what we use as our intro, or the basics of the science of mind, that we do in January. And so the first chapter we looked at the beginning of the year was the thing itself. That thing being God. It is the infinite, the A, the absolute, the E, the energy, the I, infinite. You, the universal. It is that presence. It is the life force. It is the first cause. It is the one. It is the only. It's the wholeness. It is the oneness. It is life itself. It is the first cause, first breath, all initiating pulse. It is the very essence from which we have been created. That's the thing itself. So it doesn't matter that you call it or God, but what is important, as we spoke about, is that we come to understand what that is in our life, our feeling sense, that we relate to it, that it's not a word or an anthropomorphic something outside, but rather it is the very essence of our being. So that was the thing itself. Then the next week, we took a look at the way it works, and that has to do with the law. There is a definite responsiveness to the universe, but we call it a principle. And you can't see principle or law, but you can see what it does, like gravity. You can't see gravity, but if you step off a cliff, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going down. Well, that's what the law is. It's infallible. It is always working. It's, the biblical sense, it's done into you as you believe. The scientific realms calls it cause and effect. In metaphysics, we like to call it the creative process. People sing about what goes around comes around. That is what we're working with here. And then the third chapter is what it does. And what it does, it being God, what it does, the way it works is by law. And what it does is it shows up in your life at the level of your belief. How much good is yours was the question. Well, as much as you can embody. What it does is it expresses in your life at the level of your belief, the totality of your consciousness. And then today is how to use it. You see, religious science is about using these principles. It's not just this cerebral, philosophical, conversational philosophy. It is an applied way of being. It is taking these spiritual principles and applying them to our life in areas that matter the most. Religious science, from its conception, is a healing philosophy. It is about healing our life. It is about transforming our world. It is about making our dreams come through using a definite principle, setting an energetic vibration into consciousness that responds at the level of our belief. And so today's message is how to use it. And from Ernest Holmes' book, The Science of Mind, the chapter we're working on today is how to use it. And so you'll find from the first page, Ernest writes, "It's easy enough to rush about shouting that there are no sick people, but this is never going to heal those who appear to be sick. It's easy enough to proclaim that there are no needy. Anyone can say this, whether they be wise or otherwise. If we are to prove such statements to be facts in our experience, we shall be compelled to do more than announce a principle, no matter how true it may be. It has been proved that by thinking correctly and by a conscious mental use of the law of mind, we cause it to do definite things for us, through us. By conscious thinking, we give conscious direction to it, and it, consciously or unconsciously, responds to our advance along the line of our consciousness or subjective direction. It must and will respond to everyone because it is the law, and the law is no respecter of people." Okay? Doesn't matter who uses it. Now, granted, what we want to do is get to the absolute place where it's all well and good. But in the human experience, we are brought to a point where we've got concerns. We've got issues. It's what happens when we do this thing called life. And it's not bad, but what happens is we tend to go to God, hey, God, do something with this. We go to God with a needy sense. And I get that we've all had experiences, or most of us have had experiences that have been challenges that, we might feel guilty about something we did in the past, or their dysfunction that has been brought forth to the family that we have continued to bring forth, or heredity that has come through the family that we don't feel we had anything to do. But you know what? Science is now showing us you're not bound by heredity, and we also know that you're not bound by the dysfunction of the family. You've outgrown that family. What has got to happen is you've got to go to God, not because, God, I need you to provide this, or God, I need you to do something about this, or God, I need you. We've got to get rid of that being not having, because God is all things, and the allness and the infinite of Spirit has already given what it is that we need in our life. We're the ones who have got to lay claim on the expression of God. If God is infinite, which all religions tend to talk about, that God was in the beginning was God. And if that's true, and the God is infinite, then there was nothing else. There was not God and this or that. There was God, and that's all it could create from, was itself. So your true nature, as we spoke about in the thing itself, is that it is God. And what you have to do is claim it. But what happens when we do this thing called life is we forget that we can use it. And so how you use it, you got to remember to claim it when your life has gone into the human condition a little bit too much for your comfort. I love the story. I think it comes from 2 John about Jesus, and he goes to Bethesda, the pools in Jerusalem where people would go and wait for the angels to ripple the water, and they would go in and become healed. And so people would line up. The Bible said there were like 5 decks, and people would set up shop there. They would sit there and they would wait. And one day Jesus goes there, and there's this one man, invalid, had been there for 38 years. Boy, you talk about a long time. Oh, my goodness. 38 years. I could just imagine if it was today. He would be sitting there on his deck, probably a nice lounge chair. Would have his laptop so he could watch the latest Netflix he could binge on. He would have his cell phone so he could do his Facebook. Hey, no win today. Tweet. Guess Healer came by today. Pile of magazines, stay current. Whatever it would take to make it through 38 years. That is a long time. So when Jesus showed up, he said, hey, guy, do you want to get well? Now, you would think this guy wants to get well. I mean, what is the purpose of being there if you don't want to get well? But when Jesus looked around, saw the pile of magazines, the picture of his family sitting on his little private desk, he probably thought he's kind of become complacent. He has been, sequestered or, has been stuck in this particular way for 38 years. So he asks them again, do you want to get well? Which may seem strange, but it is imperative that when we're working with healing and prayer, that someone asks. You don't just assume, hey, this person needs a healing. You're going to ask him, hey, are you ready to change? Because he has become comfortable in his dysfunction. He has been comfortable in his lack of ability to walk and to be mobile. And so he says, do you want to walk? Guy finally says, yes, I want to walk. And so Jesus says, pick up your bed and walk. He didn't ask for the doctor's reports or the prognosis or the past history or what they're saying. He says, pick up your bed and walk. You talk about using the law and the principle. I say, pick up your bed and walk. You are home now. The guy picks up his bed and walks off. Then I love the next part of the story that I'm not going to get into. And he runs into some religious leaders of that day. It happens to be the Sabbath, the Sunday. And they said, what are you doing, carrying your mat around with you? He said, well, I was just healed. They told me to pick up my bed and walk. And they said, you can't be healed. It's Sunday. It's the Sabbath. It's not supposed to happen today. It's like, really? Where's that coming from? But, that's the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And this philosophy is about the spirit. This philosophy is about the heart and the soul. And this guy had fallen in with a crowd of people who talked about their sickness. They talked about their aches and their pains. He was hanging out with people that validated where he was and helped keep him there for 38 years. But what you've got to realize, if you want to step beyond where you are, you have to be willing to let go of the people who don't see you differently. My dad used to like to say that, if you don't want to slip, which, if dealing with addiction or pain, you can't hang out in slippery places. You can't hang out with people who continue to validate your shortfall. You need to find somebody who looks at you and go, wow, you're a child of God. You were born for greatness. You've got an innate genius in you. Pick up your bed and get going here. You have got something this world needs. You got it. That's one of the values of working with a spiritual practitioner. You heard Reverend Rebecca talk about the practitioners. They are available to you. They don't see you for your pain, your aches, or the mat that you're lying down on. A spiritual practitioner has spent years. She said 4 years. That is the quickest way through. Some of the practitioners have taken years and years to develop the consciousness. So when someone says, hey, you know what? I've been invalid for 38 years. They say, and today I see you picking up that mat and walking. But this is my family history. This is, bless them. They brought you into this world. And today I see you as a radiant expression of God. Well, the heredity says this. Well, have you read Bruce Lipton lately? The epigenetics that says you're not bound by that. Your DNA unrolls more possibilities if that's what you choose. The practitioners see you for the magnificence of who you are as an expression of God. They see you as part of the infinite. This is why it's beautiful to work with a spiritual coach, if you would, to help you, keep sharp and to keep expanding and keep growing. Because if you're hanging out with those that are keeping you stuck, that's how you're using it. You got that? You're hanging out with people that see you how you had been and your old ways of being. You're using this law that doesn't care if you jump off the cliff or if you stay up there. It's going to work no matter what. And if you are with people that see your littleness, your struggles, your lack, how life was not good to you, that's what you'll continue to get. Wonderful story about this is the Bible. Remember King David? His dad and his brothers, 8 brothers, didn't see him as a king. They didn't even see him as a giant killer. They saw him as a young, small kid. And so when the prophet Samuel was going around and he was going to go to David's dad's house, Jesse, and pick one of his 8 sons to be the next king, Jesse didn't even call David in because David was, he's not worthy of being a king. He's too small. He can't kill giants yet. He didn't see him that way. He didn't even call him in. See, that's what happens when you're hanging out with those who don't see your greater possibility. And so what you want to do when you go to a healer, you've got to know that they're going to call forth the magnificence of your being. They're going to be the ones who are able to see your wholeness, your oneness with the presence of God. And those true healers, and they come in many different flavors, if you would, many different modalities. I mean, you can go to an osteopath, you can go to a naturopath, you can go to an MD, you can go to herbologist, homeopathist. And what matters here is that you have got to bring your sense of belief because the healing takes place in you. And though maybe you are working with an MD, and I bless those doctors. If I needed an MD and a doctor, I wouldn't hesitate going because I know that God works through those individuals. They're the hands of God made manifest. So if I were ever need a doctor, I'd go. But the key here is you've got to go with a sense of faith. Because if you're going because someone says you got to go to the doctor, or you got to go to the chiropractor, or you got to go to this person to go get healed, and I don't want to go, and you're dragging your feet, it's not going to work. I've watched people be healed of cancer by going down to the Optimal Health Institute for a month here and changing the total makeup at the cellular level with the natural approach, allowing the body to heal. And I've watched people go through the medical modalities and totally believe that chemo was going to heal. The key here is the faith that has made the individual whole. And when the healing happens, the good healers don't say, hey, I did it. See, that's the ego healing here. The true healers know that there is a higher power, there is a God power, there is a life force that does the healing. The medical world or the healing world knows that they can do treatments, they can put things back together, but it's still the life force that's got to heal the bone, make that organ well. Even if you adjust the heart manually, there still has to be a spirit that has that pump again, work again, and have life. We've watched people who should have come out with flying colors from a procedure and didn't make it, And we've got others that they should never have made, and they come out with flying colors. See, it's the consciousness, it's the faith. This is how it works. It is done unto you as you believe. There is a creative process that is involved. And these laws are infallible. You don't see them, but you can depend on what it is that they are doing here. And so I remember when I first became familiar with the healing process that moves through me. I've shared this story many times, but it's a profound moment in my spiritual evolution. About age 11, my grandmother used to come over most nights for dinner. And she was older, and she had this spinal issue, and the chiropractors couldn't fix it. The osteopaths couldn't fix it. Nothing short of surgery was the prescribed method. And so one day she came over, and I guess she wasn't in the best mood, which made my mom in a foul mood, because she came to me and said, Christian, I want you to read this prayer card from the church. There was this prayer card. She said, Christian, take this prayer card with its few lines. I want you to go put your hands on your grandmother's back and read this card, this prayer to her. I didn't know what this was about, but I know if my mom asked me and she was in that kind of mood, I better do it. And so I went and I read the card and whatever, and then I gave her the card back and I went out and I played. And the next day, my grandmother came over to the house and she gave me $1. And she said, here, Christian, here's $1. You healed me. I thought, that's great, Grandma. You got anything else you want healed here? I thought, this is good. And then my mom was quick to call me over, Christian, come here. And I thought, oh, for sure, she wants me to split the money with her. She got the gig, I did the work. But she said, no. She said, Christian, I want you to understand that $1 is not because you healed your grandmother. You never do the healing. There is a higher power. Call it God. Call it what you want. There is this infinite higher power that does the healing. You may do the work. You may speak the prayer. You may go to school. You may learn all sorts of things. It's for your time. It's your energy. It's the channel. But you are not the energy that does the healing. And don't ever get caught up in thinking that. And it has stuck with me ever since. Mom left me with that kind of legacy to realize that we don't do the healing. It's Spirit that does the healing. And what I came to recognize later, as I thought about this story many times, that it was the love of a grandmother not wanting to disappoint her grandson that facilitated the healing. The love, the power of love, was the faith, was the opening, created the possibility to be available. See, all the healing has to take place through the individual who is to receive it. The practitioner can know the truth, but it has to be embraced and embodied by the individual. This is how it works. It becomes an individual, which is why we say somebody's got to ask. You can't just go praying because I think this person needs a shift in their life. Oh, I think this person's lifestyle needs change, so I'm going to pray. Nah, you wouldn't want anybody going into your house and rearranging your furniture, would you? Of course not. Not without your permission. Well, the same is true. You don't want anybody going into your consciousness and your energetic field and rearranging things because they think your life could be better. You've got to wait till somebody reaches out, and then they can say, pick up your mat and walk. But not until somebody asks, is it appropriate really to do prayer? It's always okay to know that God is there, but you don't get specific in what it looks like. And recognize that you're not the power. You're the plate. It's like here you go. If somebody gave you a glass of water and you ask, hey, where'd the water come from? Well, the water came, from the faucet. I went in, turned the faucet, out came the water. Well, I'll tell you what, the water that came out of the faucet, yes, but that's the end point. That was like the final distribution. That water, came through your water tank, which came from the pipes, which came from the reservoir, which came from the mountains, which came from the rain, which came from, the ocean out front here. There's a lot of that motion that is there. That faucet is the end point. That healer may be the spot where the healing begins to happen, but they are not the healer. You've got to recognize that God is infinite. That means you are of that God nature. So there is not God and you. You understand what that means? There's not God and you. There is God expressing as you. Big difference here. It's one of the keys to our style of prayer. I teach these classes on the basics of this philosophy, and we begin to understand that you're not praying to something outside of ourselves. We're expressing as God expresses, and we get it here. But all of a sudden, when the issue begins to unfold, I notice oftentimes the prayers start shifting to praying to the beloved, to that which is outside. God, do something. God, provide something. God, take care of that. No. It's a matter of communing. See, when something's going on in our life, it's what moves us to spirit. And when we begin to pray, we want to be specific. If it's a car, if it's the relationship, if it's the home, the work, the abundance, that's okay. That is what moves you into remembering, realigning with the infinite. But you got to remember, you are the infinite. So I speak my prayers, and what we teach is how to speak prayers in the first person. I, the capital I, the God I, the first person, the God I am is what is speaking here. So what I want to do in my prayers is commune with the truth of my being and recognize that there's no place to send these prayers. There's only one mind, that's the mind of God, and that is my mind now. That's the mind I'm using. And so as I come to be aware, this is how it works, is as I become aware, it is available in all places. And so if I'm praying for John in New York, he doesn't have to be sitting in front of me, but he has to become open, and he is open to that which is known within the one mind, the wholeness, the healing, the abundance. I'm not sending it anywhere. It's John who has to become available, which is why I say it's important for somebody to reach out and ask, to have permission to know the spiritual truth of this situation. And so it comes to a sense of communing with the truth of who you are. It is not saying, God, do this or do that. If we do, we want to make sure we leave the room for greater good, greater possibilities, the highest and best for all concerned here. Not limited by my perspective. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great essayist who influenced Ernest Holmes greatly. He wrote a whole chapter on the absolute in his essays. But he wrote about prayer. He says, prayer that craves a particular commodity. I love the way they say it. Prayer that craves a particular commodity. That's anything less than all good. It's vicious. Prayer is the contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view. Here it's talking about the witness consciousness. Okay, we're contemplating it from the highest point of view. It is the soliloquy of beholding and the jubilant soul. It is the Spirit of God pronouncing its work as good. And as soon as you are one with God, you're no longer begging. Once you're one with God, that's the communion. You're not saying, God, provide this, God, do this. Not trying to fill my needs. No. And here's the catch I don't usually share on Sundays. I save this for classwork because, we pray, we create. There's power in the universe we can use, greater than we are, that kind of thing. Change your thinking, change your life, make things happen. And not always are the prayers answered like we want. But if you remember, you've got the space for the highest and best here. So I may be doing my prayer and realizing from my space, but if I truly know that Spirit's in charge, then I've got to trust what begins to unfold. I've prayed times and somebody didn't survive. It's like, or I come out of the hospital and they're in a rough place. God, man, give me the power. I know that feeling. But there's something deeper that knows that God knows what's best. There's a powerful story from when little David was King David. And he had a baby. And that baby was born sick, very sick. And so over the next several days, David didn't talk to anybody. He spent his time on his knees, praying and reaching out to God. He was fasting, didn't shave, disheveled, a mess. You could hear him just God pleading, whining. Just observe the agony of this father. And after 7 days of praying to God, his baby died. And his attendants, the men, took care of him. Didn't know really what they could say. They went in and they helped David up off the ground and said, your baby has died. Devastated. He went back to his room, took a shower, put on some fresh clothes. He was seen going into the temple, praying, meditating, communing, whatever that is one does in that moment, because there's no logic. It is about, help me find peace here, a peace that passes the logic or the understanding. And this is how it works. They say he came out from that temple. He went in, sat down with his men, had a meal, and they said, David, are you okay? You were a mess. You were crying when your baby was dying, and you seemed to be okay. He said, when my little baby was alive, there's something I could still do. I could reach out to God. I could pray. I put all my heart and soul in him making it. But now that he has died, there's nothing I can do about that here, other than know that when I move on, we will be together again. But I need to move forward here now. Wow. He could have left with a big chip on his shoulder, betrayed by God, didn't turn out how he wanted. Isn't this terrible? He mourned, he connected with God, and it was a quick turnaround, but the fact is, the story is that he went on to continue to live. What I want us to get is sometimes our prayers do not turn out, but if you've been praying with that kind of passion, just fervent prayer, with all that you got, and things go differently than you thought they were to go, you've got to believe and have the faith that it is an answer to your prayer, to your heart prayer, for the highest and best. When I know that people are praying, our practitioners are praying, and they know how to pray, and it doesn't turn out like the specific prayer request, I still know with all my being, because my prayers are powerful. They work. I watch it time and time again. What I know is the unfoldment is the answer to prayer, and sometimes death is a perfect healing, which is hard to tell people that are left on this side, but maybe that little baby fulfilled its destiny at 7 months or 7 years or 7 days for that matter. There was some kind of soul agreement when it came in, I'm fulfilled my destiny at this particular point. Or an older individual or whose body is no longer working, and it's time to let it go. It's tough. It's tough. But within our prayer, we have a specific way in which to pray. And it's what we teach. And the first one, as I said, is the recognition of that power of the infinite, that life force, the absolute, the energy, the infinite, the oneness, the universal love of life. That's what I am. That's my nature. That abundance, the joy, the creativity, the self-expression, that is my true nature. And so the first step is to recognize that. The second step is to feel it, to sense it, to know, to unify. Those first two steps are powerful. That could almost be the whole prayer right there. You recognize that this is what I am. This God vibration is that which is expressing through me. There's nothing else that can remain in my life. This is how it works. And so from that God place, the third step of our prayer after the recognition and unification is the realization. A realization from the God place. It's called a spiritual realization. So when the world is saying, look at this constriction, look at this lack, or look at this dis-ease, look at the people I'm hanging out with that are supporting me in my struggle and being an invalid, all of a sudden the spiritual truth is those are illusions of the spiritual kingdom, and the kingdom of God is within. Don't go outside looking for it, because you're going to find people that validate your humanness. You need to go to the kingdom within, to that spiritual consciousness that may be reflected in individuals in your life, but they know that they are not the power, they are not the source. They will just help activate within you the opening of that threshold, the parting of the veil for that divine download. And if God, the I am, first person, is speaking the spiritual truth of the condition of concern in your life, and that you have let go of it, and you remain in the spiritual qualities of that experience in your life, it's God spoken, it's done. Yeah? Yeah, so how would you feel? Pretty good, right? It's called gratitude, if you forgot. That's the fourth step. Third is the spiritual realization. If God's speaking here, it's done, it's declared, then it's done. You're filled with appreciation, thanksgiving, but not thank you, God, outside. You got that? I hear people say, thank you, God. Metaphorically, maybe. But you know what? It's a state of grace. It's a state of gratitude. It's appreciation for that which is expressing in my life, which is God expressing in my life. It's not something outside that made it happen. Subtle difference. But it's as profound as thinking that it's God in you to God as you. See, the foundation doesn't work if you think it's God and you, because then you're praying outside. But if you know it's God as you, then you're just filled with that sense of appreciation for the good that is, and then you let it go. That's a big key. That's the part some people have difficult. They're good at holding on. You got to let go. You got to be just as strong to let go. You put the seed in the ground, the creative process. You put the seed in the soil, and you let it grow. You don't dig it up. You let it grow. The law, the creative process, germinates and has it begin to express itself. I've got to let that thought seed, that prayer seed go in the collective soil of the God consciousness so it can grow and manifest in my life. If I go digging it up every day, I blew it. You got it? So the 5 steps is a recognition of that presence, and second step is to unify with it. Third step, from that sense of Spirit speaking, is the spiritual truth of the situation. And then, it's all natural. Thank you, and you let it go. And when it doesn't happen in the manner you had prayed for, like King David, you've got to know with the totality of your being that Spirit is prevailing here. And this helps bring a sense of peace. You can't understand. You've got to have a faith as stronger than death. And when you have that, you'll begin to see that presence showing up all over in your life. So your assignment this week is to use this present. You recognize the infinite. The way it works is through a law. And what it does is it's at the level of your belief. And how to use it is you've got to apply it. It's not a theoretical, philosophical, conceptual philosophy. It is an applied, demonstrable expression of Spirit in a relevant, personal way. And that has been the thrust of religious science since its conceptions. The healings and the manifestations continue to confirm the principles of this philosophy work. But they'll only work if you work it. That's how you use it. God bless us as our life flourishes. I love you. Hey, I want to bring back to the stage a wonderful singer of today. Hey, you're doing theater, right? Hey, let's do a stage reading at Seaside. We can do that during Zoom times. And if you ever move down here, we get a whole theater department going.
Okay.
I like the arts in that. So.
Sounds good. All righty, Roo. 1, 2, 3, 4. No? I am consciously living, consciously loving, consciously choosing me as I gaze out upon all that life has to offer and where I want to be, in a state of disillusion or a state of pure well-being. Knowing attitude and focus paint the picture that I'm seeing. I am stoking the fires, moment molding, watching the thoughts that I am holding, trusting my highest
consciously creating now. That's the way it works for sure. Thank you. Hey, this is the time of our service where we have the opportunity to share our gifts, to share our love, and to know that as we give, it comes back. But it's not why we give. It's an expression of who we are. It's our consciousness. It is the activity that God is having in our life, and we get to decide what level that activity is. And so I invite you to listen to your heart and feel that sense of appreciation, and know that as you support Spirit showing up in your life, which today happens to be Seaside, as you support Spirit's work, what you'll find is Spirit supporting its work as your life. You can't outgive God. I encourage you to try. What you'll find is the Spirit continues to flow and flow ever increasing kinds of ways. And so I invite you to listen to your heart and give today from that place. And so I invite you to take your gift from that deep place and to share with me. And I'll put on the screen, I'll put on the screen, they'll put on the screen, the different ways in which you can give, whether it's through Venmo or whether it is through Breeze or PayPal. Or I think we have all sorts of ways. Everybody here today has mailed in their gifts, often with letters that are also very inspiring. They carry the energy with the handwritten notes. So thank you for that. But first, let's say together our affirmation of abundance, which is, Spirit continues to bless my world. Gratefully I live as the giving expression of Spirit, opening the floodgates of the affluent flow of greater good as my life now. Hit the donate now button. Your guys from Seaside. Always great to hear you, see you safe distancing. We got Bob leading the pack on that saxophone, and Harley there in that corner with that bass, and we have got Paul right there on the drums, and that is Max on the Paul Lloyd Warner Blusendorfer, just playing away. I love it. And speaking of love and music, Margaret, thank you so much for driving down here and being part of this morning's early service outside, and just the gift of heart you bring. And Rebecca, love you just so much. Hey, we're going to do vows together. February 14th, 10:20. You guys remember, mark your calendar. Tim, we're going to need you to set that up somehow. I forgot to mention that to you. We're going to renew vows at 10:20 on. So, hey, thanks for always being there behind the camera, Tim, and hitting that go button for us to go live. Appreciate that. And we got, in the editing room, we got Steve Grant as well as Tom, who are just doing the switching to keep whatever's coming out to you coming out. So I appreciate that. And behind the other camera is Edwin, week after week, consistently. And you know what? We're going to be doing today an annual meeting at 1 o'clock. So if you want to come be part of that, you just go to the Seaside website and you click annual meeting at 1 o'clock and you get the Zoom link. But at that annual meeting, we announce the volunteers, Volunteer of the Year. And this year, it's going to be Valerie Carlson. So she may be watching right now and hearing it for the first time. And Valerie, we are just so grateful to you for the wonderful service you've given us for over the last couple of years. All the the computers work and getting the letters out, for the orchestration, for the pledge program. You gave us a huge amount of computer skills that was highly needed that we wouldn't have had. So thank you for that. So also, we got something different this year, because as we were reviewing who should be awarded, you can't get the Volunteer of the Year award if you're on the Board of Trustees. It's just kind of something we've set up. Well, who's been on the board for the last 5 previous years until this year is Edwin Robinson. And what we've come to realize is this is a 28-year member who has given full out every week for 28 years, sitting behind it. So, Edwin, we're giving you the Volunteer of the Decade Award. Never has there been one, but you are the first recipient. We can even name it the Volunteer of the Decade, though we could have called it 2 decades. And so, Edwin, we see you, we notice you, we love you. Brother, just thank you. Can't imagine this place without you. I've been around as long as Bob and I. Crazy. So let's see. And Matthew behind the sound booth over there, thank you very much. And Dana Boat, thank you for your prayers. She also handles the chat room on the streaming every week, or organizes somebody to be there. So you see her name consistently keeping the chat going on the Facebook. So if you don't want to listen to the chat or watch it, then you can always go to the platform if you don't know how to turn it off online. But anyway, I could keep going. Just want to give you a heads up. Last announcement here is Sacred Circles. Next Sunday, we're going to be looking at chapter 6 from the book Our Moment of Choice, the Evolutionaries Leaders book, and it is it's going to be powerful. And so a Sacred Circle is an opportunity for you to get involved online in a Zoom room with a small group on a convenient time that's facilitated by a practitioner for some spiritual conversation that deepens the Sunday message. So it started this week. Go to the seasidecenter.org website and pick one. There's no cost to that. And it just allows one to stay connected with friends, great new friends, people of like mind, and to deepen the conversation. This week we're working on peace. So anyway, time to pray. It's what this whole morning is about, is moving consciousness to that place. It's not about my talk, and it's not about the laughs or the cries, or it's about shifting consciousness. Rebecca and her friends' music is about shifting consciousness, opening up the soul, so there can be a sense of receptivity. So I invite you to move with me to that next level of receptivity to the divine, where I come to recognize that life force, that infinite intelligence, the all-knowing wisdom, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, everywhere. So in the midst of concern or crisis, the allness, the absolute is. And so I choose to unify this when I move to a place of concern. When I am caught up in my humanness, I remember that the infinite is fully always present. And so I align, I sync with this divine frequency. And it's in this divine alignment I become that place where God is known. Elijah said, expand the curtains of your tent. Stretch forth the cords. Strengthen the stakes so there may be more room for God's new thing. I'm available. I stretch beyond where I have been, those that have seen me or see me for what I was, but I choose to come into the divine field of a spiritual presence, a practitioner, a seer. I can see the greatness, the genius, the activated entelechy of my being. And there is a responsiveness. I continue to speak in this first person of I, but what I know is this responsiveness is taking place within all that are choosing to open up to it in this moment, a responsiveness to the divine, to the abundance, to that wonderful flow of greater expanding good. As I choose to commune with the infinite and not need to tell God what it has to do, but allow myself to be available, I find God filling those places of concern with that which is greater than what I ever even began to imagine was possible. The floodgates open, the good flows, the body becomes more comfortable. Every cell is activated to its divine blueprint. There is a responsiveness, and I know right now that the greater healing has its way in this moment. Every prayer request that has been brought forth to our ministry, I know is now fulfilled. Something good's going on. Can you feel that? Open up to it. Be receptive. For it's in this time Seaside continues to move forward, sharing the light, the possibilities of an expanding new things of God. And the consciousness we bring to this expanded world is the divine, of love, of caring, of compassion, of understanding. There's a healing going on, not only in our individual experience in our life, but I know for Seaside, we're continuing to grow and to expand. We are touching more individuals with this healing message. And there's a reverberation that moves forth within individuals' bodies and lives. And the greater expression of God has its way because they are seen in a new way. And we bring this expanding consciousness not only to the community of Seaside, but the community in San Diego. We bring this light and love and let go of the fear or the concerns of what was and add to this emerging consciousness of our nation a greater sense of peace, that all is good, all is well. And this is finding expression. There are more points of light linking up and shining brighter than before, and the darkness cannot remain. Love prevails. For God is omnipresent, God is love. And we add to the global consciousness of love, peace, is expressing now. There's a global heart. I'm grateful to be part, to feel, to sense, to love this kind of way. It's with a sense of gratitude for this divine realization that unfolds in this moment in actual kinds of ways. I'm filled with a sense of thanksgiving, not to anyone, just a thank you for the good that is, appreciative eyes, the manifesting abundant good that comes from gratitude has its way. And so I let go to this. I let go of these words I've spoken. I don't need to hold on to the truth, for the truth always is. And so I let go in this moment. I surrender my way for thy way, the divine way. Let go. Just allow Spirit to be. And so it is. Amen.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you've got to let it go. What you have to say, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. Said no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. I'm only here for God. That I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. Said no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free. Yes, I'm only here for God. Wherever you are, sing it with us. Release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. Said no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free.
Thank you. Hey, our affirmation for the week is, there is a power for good in the universe, and I'm using it to create good in my life now. You got that? Then let's say it together. There is a power for good in the universe, and I'm using it to create good in my life now. Touch your heart and say it again. There is a power for good in the universe, and I am using it to create good in my life now. One more time, now that we've got it, let's go ahead and memorize it and use it all week. Together, there is a power for good in the universe, and I'm using it to create good in my life now. See you next week. I love you.
Thank you.